have that it is 11:30 Central Time. Hi there,
Hi,
JJ.
hi, how are you?
I'm doing well.
Good.
Seems like people are trickling in. I want to give people a chance to get settled and get comfortable. And I would invite you, as you're comfortable, to have your cameras on and even your mics on, barring any loud noise. If we were all in one room, I would hear sneezes, I might hear some coughs, I might hear some rustling. It just feels natural to hear noise. So if you want to keep your mics on, that's totally fine. But I would welcome your cameras on so we can interact. Hey there, come on in.
Hey y'all, did anyone try to get into the other session and have an invalid ID situation?
Yes.
Yes.
Is that why y'all are here?
I, I mean, not that I wouldn't be in here too, but I just was curious whether.
So everyone, the links were updated. And so you just need to refresh that program book. I don't know if some of you download it again. It's the same link to access the program book. You just have to refresh it. It was updated an hour ago. So that's, if you had it up from earlier, that's the reason why it was old.
Got it. Okay. Thank you.
No
All
problem.
right. I will not be offended if anybody needs to go to the other room at all. All right. Welcome to Play Without Ceasing. I think we're okay to get started, but before I do want to allow you all to say how you're doing. What are you bringing into the space? Anybody who wants to share can, and then we'll go from there. How are you? This is usually where somebody gives an emotion word. I'm happy, I'm excited.
I'll go for it. I'm feeling very hopeful, a little bit, let's see, I had a little bit of an emotional week, so I'm a little bit drained, but I'm definitely feeling hopeful.
Okay, hopeful and drained. We'll take it, JJ. Thank you. Anybody else? How are you?
Hi, my name is Erin.
Hi, Erin.
I feel mindful. This morning's like yoga really helped me center my body and like be more conscious of like what's going on.
Very cool. That's a great place to be aware of what's happening for you. I'm happy you're here. Hi, Molly.
Hi, I'm also feeling hopeful. I haven't really managed to figure out professional development in sort of the virtual world since COVID hit. And I normally love going to sessions and kind of being in the space with people. So I mostly, when I log in, I get really distracted very easily. And this is the first conference that I haven't had that because I'm working from home today and have found a way to sort of be productive with my hands that doesn't take mind work so that I can pay attention and engage. And it's been wonderful so far. So I'm hoping for learning.
Thanks, Molly. I will try my best not to disappoint. Anybody else want to check in? How are you?
Hey everyone, my name is Katie. My pronouns are she, they, and I'm feeling all over the place. I just am trying to do 700 things at the same time. So I need to focus my energy in one spot. But I'm very excited for this. I'm very excited to hang out with everybody for the next 2 days. So I'm in a good mood and all over the place.
We will take you as you are, Katie. Welcome. We're glad to have you. My friends always accuse me of having 15 jobs, so I don't quite have 700, but I think I can understand the sentiment. The reason I always check in with people, whether I'm teaching a class or doing a presentation, because how we are in the room affects how we're going to interact and engage. And we matter. And I always want to reinforce the fact that we matter. Anybody else?
I'll go. My name is Jana. I'm an advocate in Cook County 555 building.
Mhm.
And I'm with Katie. I was on 3 court calls this morning already and a little bit tired.
That's okay. We'll accept that you're fatigued. And again, we will try to energize you as we talk about play. Diana, did I see you want to share as well?
Yeah, hi, I'm Diana. I am student intern at USF Office of Institutional Diversity. I too am tired. I got home from working on the psych unit in Ingalls Memorial last night. And then I also have an internship for my master's. I'm finishing up my last semester. So yeah, I'm quite tired. This is pretty early for me. Like, but I got myself up and I jumped in the shower and I did the yoga and I was like, I'm going to go with it. And it was much easier to participate from home for sure. Because usually I, like Molly said, and I know Molly from St. Francis, it does get hard to stay focused at times with the virtual world. So like, yeah, I found myself actually being able to pay more attention being from home. So yeah, that's me for today.
Got it. Thanks, Diana. We're happy to have you. And I get the hustle. We're happy to have you all, however you show up. Again, we're talking play without ceasing. My name is DeVona Alleyne. I use she, her, she, her, hers, and they, them pronouns, but we'll get to who I am as we go along. Play without ceasing is a play on a verse from a sacred text that says, always be focused, always be aware. There's something about play that is akin to meditation, and we'll talk about it. But for now, let's jump into our presentation. I'm going to share my screen. I can't share my screen. Oh, there we go. I got it. All right, play without ceasing. In the work that we do, we want to be above it all, which is why I have my giraffe there above the clouds. We're talking about a purposeful remedy for trauma. So I said there would be enough about me. Here I am. She, her, hers, they, them. I'm a doctoral candidate in counselor education and supervision. I am studying historical racial trauma and the community feeling it birthed, called intersubjectivity. I'm a counselor educator. I do teach master students at Adler and Northwestern, licensed therapist in Illinois. I specialize in relational trauma and spiritually integrative therapy. I am ordained Baptist clergy, but I would likely get thrown out of most Baptist churches, something I'm very proud of. And given my history working with what is now Resilience in Chicago, I remain a counselor and advocate against sexual violence, and I am a presenter and trainer. This is important because this idea of play came about from the presentations that I would do on vicarious trauma. Here's how it started. Preserving peace. I would do trainings for volunteer advocates who would go into the hospital and sit with rape survivors. And I wanted to teach people how to survive frequent exposure to the trauma of those survivors. And then I got a little more sophisticated and updated my PowerPoints and my delivery. So I talked about when their trauma becomes yours, talking about vicarious trauma and self-care. And then I stretched out to working with child survivors and when helping really hurts. And then I also took this vicarious trauma training to members of clergy and people who are doing ministry in our context where doing right sometimes doesn't feel so good. And then ultimately, when COVID struck, I turned it into an emergent presentation and why it was urgent that those of us who work with survivors of sexual assault and domestic violence get the care that we need because it is an emergency. In line with that, though, encountering vicarious trauma, there were a couple of things that I said we could do. We have to gather in community, which we're doing, even though it's online. We have to do something else with meaning that fuels us and energizes us for the work. And then we need to have a ritual, something that grounds us that we do all the time to kind of manage this trauma. But the thing that stuck to me was the fact that we need to laugh and laugh on purpose. And I'm kind of silly, you'll figure this out. But this laughter stuck with me. And what it amounted to is how it's going. This is how it's going. Usually there would be a laugh track or something now. But in discovering that we have to laugh on purpose to counter the effects of vicarious trauma and even manage our own trauma, it birthed this playful movement within me. And I really wanted to find out, what is it about play that makes play so attractive and then so important for managing trauma, either mine or that of hearing survivors? With me, I bring my own fun. I actually said that. I actually do that. I take my own fun wherever I go. And in my study of play, I wanted to answer the question, why does that work for me? And why might that work for anybody? Well, in our time together for today's play date, we're going to conjure a snapshot of how our lives involve play. And then we'll crush any misconceptions and myths about play. We'll craft a definition of play based on the literature and what resonates with us. And then we'll make a case, get it, for continuous play regardless of context. And then we'll also begin to create our individual play plan. And we'll do it in community, so we'll have some help. And play often involves the unexpected. So that's my unexpected toy right there. You didn't see that coming. All right. I want to do a quick poll. It's quick and we'll talk about it. What do these activities have in common? And I'll read them. They'll also be on the screen, and then I'll come back to you all and we'll talk about what some commonalities are and some nuances. Throwing snowballs with friends, building a sandcastle, playing a kissing game at a middle school party, provided everybody is of middle school age, of course, saying a tongue twister, finger painting, dancing, telling a joke, pulling a prank, dressing up in wild clothes, wagering at a casino or a racetrack, making your doll do whatever you want, fantasizing about someone romantically, doing a crossword puzzle, holding your breath longer than you have before, teasing your younger sibling, bluffing in a poker game, collecting ceramic frogs, making the biggest splash possible at a public swimming pool. Take a look at those things and let's talk about what they might all have in common. What do they have in common? Are they part of a productive workday?
They're thrilling.
They're thrilling. Okay. I
Required.
get a thrill out of bluffing in a poker game. Yeah. What else?
They don't have to do with work.
They don't have to do with work. Somebody said bringing joy.
They're all things that you have fun doing or that are somewhat seen as child things that you would do for fun, but they're all fun things to do and that will probably make you laugh.
Laughter may be involved and there's fun. And then there's this association with children. Anything else? Requiring creativity and lighthearted. What about this kissing game? Will that be fun for me if I don't want to be kissed? Or bluffing in a poker game. What if I lose? Is that fun and lighthearted?
I feel like some of these might take you out of your comfort zone.
They might take you out of your comfort zone. Yeah, that's great. Absolutely. So there's a risk involved for sure. But they're all kind of elements of play with nuance, right? All of those things may not be considered play all the time, but there are some contexts that they overlap, that these things seem like they're leisure. They're not work, or are they? Is there a professional snowball fight somewhere or Olympics of snowball fighting? What about poker playing? What if you're gambling and you're an addictive personality? Now, I'm not so much familiar with addictive personalities per se. I will say that people will lean on addiction and these repetitive behaviors, even if harm might happen. But, and this is my bent as a therapist, I don't know that I believe in an addictive personality. But gambling, if you have a gambling addiction, is that play? Maybe. But whenever we're talking about play, it typically doesn't have an end that we're trying to get. It's strictly for leisure, but we'll talk about that as well. Too much play. Can there be such a thing as too much play? We're told there is, right? Diana mentioned that play has an association with being a child. And there is something in our culture that says if we are in what they call grown-up bodies, but we're acting like we're in non-grown-up bodies, that there's something wrong with us. There's a deficit. I want to counter that as we go along. All right, let's keep going here. These activities, yes, they are forms of play. There is some lightheartedness, but just doing them doesn't automatically make them play. For these things to be play, there are certain characteristics that are a part of it that we have to consider. But we'll get to that. Another poll, and please take your mics off and yell at me because I won't be able to see you. Would you consider this play?
Yes.
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 Okay, why?
They're having fun.
They look like they're having fun. They're laughing, and jumping is not typically what we do walking down the street or as a part of work, right? Depending on what work you do. What about this? Do we even know what this is? So as you know, I do presentations because I'm doing one right now. These are needs that I cut out for my presentations to put in a box that I call the take what you need box. Is it play?
Yeah.
Yes.
Tell me why.
It can be fun.
I did it for work.
That doesn't mean it can't be fun.
Okay, I like that answer. What about this? Is this play? Somebody playing a video game?
Oh, it depends on what kind of gamer you are.
It does. Just because I'm in a gaming chair, I am not a gamer. I just got a bad back. It could be considered play, but typically when we're playing a video game or even a sporting event, we're trying to do something. We're trying to accomplish something. So there's a degree of productivity in it that might remove its characteristic. It might remove its character of being play. But it's kind of tricky. So that's kind of on the bubble. What about this? Whatever this person is doing online, is it play? Would you consider it play?
I feel like I'd have to see the screen to know and to know them.
That's fair. So it's individual, and depending on what they're working on, could play be happening even if the person is working? Anyone? Anyone? There's no right or wrong here. I'm just curious about your thoughts.
Oh, for sure.
So play can happen while work is happening, and we'll talk about that diverging thought or that polarity. What about this? This person writing. Would you consider this play, or could you consider it play?
Yes.
Yep.
Why?
Because you're using creativity and imagination.
Yeah, it could be play with language for sure. Or as one of my friends purchased and posted on social media a couple of days ago, it could be a fountain pen with chocolate scented ink. That would be a form of play because there is a certain enjoyment and for no reason at all. What about this? I don't know if you can see it because of the closed caption, but would this be considered play? Can you see the doodling at the bottom of the screen? I can't see you, so you have to just start talking to me.
I would say it could be, since playfulness is kind of a personal experience. I think with all of them, it could be, but as an outsider, I couldn't really judge it for that person.
That's fair. So what this is, if I can make sense of it for you, this is a program evaluation plan of a program. So that says mental health, treatment, African-American, emerging adults. It's brainstorming, it's money, it's brainstorming session, it's a telephone, and I can't see behind the closed caption there. And then the next one is media and getting the word out. Oh, that's an institution. Media, gathering people together, universities, and religious organizations. And then shifting people into this program, and then them encountering therapy. So it was actually work, but I found a playful way to do it. It was for my program evaluation class years ago, but it's work and I'm doing it playfully, very much like what could have been happening behind our Apple computer there. And then what about this? Is this play?
Yes.
Why?
I think creativity again, and it's like an expression of self.
Yes. What if I'm working as an interior decorator?
I think it maybe depends on how you feel about your job and like if you are obliged to do it or if it's something you do for pleasure.
Right, right. And then what about this person wearing a shirt that says living my best life? Would you consider this play?
If the shirt is true.
The shirt is true? If the shirt is true, was that what I heard?
Yes.
Yes. Expression, wearing clothing is a way to play. And some people may or may not see it that way, but it's another way to incorporate play. All work and no play makes Jack a dull boy. Have you heard that before?
Yes.
So about Jack, Jack is not just dull. He's a casualty of this false dichotomy between work and play. He's also a player in a capitalist patriarchal cult of productivity, where you have to always be producing, always doing something. And from that, we can make up, even though literature backs it up, we can make up that Jack is a sufferer of anxiety, low self-esteem, and an inability to turn off. We could also say that Jack might feel guilty for being unproductive or for sleeping in or being lazy. I would encourage you, don't be like Jack. I am Jack's confusion about what play is. All right, let's chat for a second. How are we like Jack? Is anybody in the room like Jack, where I always have to be producing, I always have to be doing something, or if nothing has come out of what I'm doing, then I've wasted time?
Yes. Because I spent so much of my time in an abusive relationship, I feel like now I'm my harshest critic because I always have to be accomplishing something.
Mm-hmm.
And it's hard for me to relax, as people say. So like I don't do downtime really well. I have to find something to be doing, even when it's like self-help focused or anything like that. So like I have to force myself to, as they say, have fun or laugh, or because I'm so focused on making up for lost time.
Got it. Got it. Thank you for sharing that, Diana. I don't think you're alone in that and feeling like there must be a product from what I'm doing. I see you nodding, Layla. You want to share?
Yeah, I was just talking about this with my partner the other day that like even with rest and stuff, if I don't see like a product at the end, it's hard to feel good about it. Like I feel like productivity is very tied to my self-worth. And so after a day of like doing nothing, then I just feel like it was a whole like waste, and that reflects badly on me.
Got it. Got it. Thank you for sharing that. I don't believe that's true of you.
Thank you.
Yeah, what I believe is when we take time off or we have downtime, the productivity is in the doing. Like I am taking care of myself by not making myself a cog in the capitalist machine, if you will. Others, what is your experience of being like Jack? That I got to work, work, work.
I think being in a constant flow of like keep moving to keep surviving and like going through work, making sure you know have enough income, that also doesn't allow me to just stop and like rest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's almost like rest has to be earned, huh, Erin?
Yeah.
And the literature shows that if we have our not value, that's not what I want to say, if we're driven by this need to survive for whatever reason, because of oppression, because of our social economic status, then yeah, we will place more value on work. I was talking to a student the other day, and she said her mother just did not understand her staying home with her kids, because in her family, once you were old enough to get a job, you went to work. It didn't matter what you had to do as long as you were working. And for a lot of us, that's where our value comes from. And so if you're not working, or if you're not being paid for enough for the work that you're doing, we tend to see ourselves as failing. I want to counter that as we're talking about play. Play, it's for its own sake. Rest is also for its own sake, by the way, but for our context, we're talking about play. Poor Jack. I don't think we need to be like Jack. I think if we see value in just being, Jack falls away and we get to be who we are, not like Jack. And if you're a fan of Fight Club, you get this reference that I am Jack's confusion about what play is. And if you don't, it's just fun. All right, let's keep going. So when it comes to play, there's some myths of play. The mythology, get it, unicorn? But I kind of think unicorns are real, but whatever. We think that play for adults is role inappropriate. Once you get to a certain age, play is no longer necessary. If you're still playing when you're an adult, it means you didn't get what you needed when you were a child. You're immature. And to be adult means to not need play anymore. I don't need fun. I just need money and food, I think. But of course, that's not true. And then within this mythology of play, play is seen as irresponsibly pleasure driven, unproductive, and against social norms. I actually like seeing adults play. Years ago, it feels like years ago, when we were allowed to be outside and in community, there was somebody dancing downtown, like just walking down the street. And then when they walked by me, I just started dancing with them. Never exchanged names, never even touched. We just danced for a minute and then the moment was gone. So perhaps we can normalize play just like that. But for us, it's against social norms. And to be playful is almost countercultural. Here's another myth, that play is subordinate to work. Work is up here, and then if you've done your work, you've earned it. Now you get to play, but not too much play, as somebody said in the chat. And then societal frames will make it okay to play, where we have certain roles, certain times. We even, like when adults buy toys, we call it collecting instead of playing with toys. And we have all of these roles and frames because we want to prevent embarrassment. I'll be embarrassed if people know that I'm playing. And then the adult who does not or refuses to grow out of play is considered abnormal, stunted, or even unhealthy. We want the serious person to work with us. That we'll hire the serious person, because if they're playing, they're not who we want. Well, here are traditional ideas of play. We think it's a child's thing. We think that it might be dirty or messy. We think toys are involved. We think it has to be a specific game. Again, that role, place, and time. Maybe it might be more social. I can't play by myself. And then we have it on this dichotomy. You're either working or you're playing, and never the two shall meet. Of course, also not true. Play, if you think of it, it's a set of accomplished encounters driven by emotion that lends itself to dynamic processes with social and individual implications. So it's purposeless, it's voluntary. I'm playing because I want to, but if I don't want to, I can stop. It's outside of the ordinary, so there's a surprise involved. It's fun, and there may be some rules, but not necessarily. It can also be purposeful and productive, or purposeless and non-productive, but it is never ever meaningless. Play is transformative, potentially subversive to the established order. It is countercultural to be playful in a pandemic, or to be playful when we're managing trauma, or to be playful when we're sitting with survivors. There was a survivor that I sat with as her therapist when I was working at Resilience on the west side of Chicago in the Austin office. And her way to get through things, which a lot of us do, was to make jokes. And over time, as we saw one another, she would make a joke about her assault and she'd say, I'll add that to the stand up routine. And I don't know whether she pursued it or not, but she had a wry way of thinking and vocalizing what happened to her, that she had a powerful message had she decided to, put it in a comedy routine. It was a type of comedy that made people think and move people to change, but definitely subversive to the established order about what we think we should do and say around pretty horrible things. And then play repetitive, relaxing, and calming for myself, and then for the people I'm connected to. And it's a process. Play is not any individual activity. There is a series of processes that happen in whatever we do. That's what makes it play or not play. And just for fun, since we have Yoda there, all of this is play. All right, there's some emotional processes that come into play. It has to involve anticipation, pleasure, surprise, strength, poise, and understanding. Those 6 emotional processes in play. My animation was out of order. But all of these things have to be a part of the activity before we can consider it, by definition, scholarly definition, play. So think about when you've played before. Wow, there was something you were expecting to do. You were expecting to have fun. And then, wow, you were caught off guard by the fun that you had. I didn't know we were going to be so engrossed in this. Time got away from me. It was so pleasurable. But it takes strength to stay focused when you're playing at something. Not that you're trying to produce something, but there's a certain strength to maintain our attention. And then there's poise, like, okay, I am in this, I am prepared for this. And then I understand how things work. All of this comes together when we're playing. Some people don't have contact with their feelings, they lack emotional articulation of those feelings. Those things can come out and be remedied in play. So this is Lakeisha Lockhart, Dr. Lakeisha Lockhart. She's a playful womanist scholar and also an assistant professor of practical theology. Now, what does theology have to do with play? Well, there's a certain playfulness within belief. And if you're not familiar with what womanism is, I encourage you to look it up. Alice Walker said, womanist is to feminist as purple is to lavender. So again, it's another philosophy that tries to counter oppression, and just from the lens of Black women. But Lakeisha Lockhart considers herself playful womanist scholar. She says play is a collection of aesthetic embodied experiences. So your body is necessary for play to come about. And then play is about who we are and how we come to know the world around us. We almost have to play in order to understand the seriousness that's in front of us. And then she says, I can bring more to my life when I give myself space to play and to dream and be and innovate and imagine. So again, not to produce something, but to be something. And then she says, play helps us see the places where we have agency. If I'm playing, I recognize I have power. I have agency. I can make decisions that affect me in positive ways that I choose. We can embody that in play. She says it makes us a little more brave because play involves some risk, regardless of how you're doing it, whether it's the risk of embarrassment or the risk of being different or the risk of losing. Play involves risk and we become much more brave. And then she says, play allows us to be expansive and see what new might come. And it enhances what we do. So for all of the jacks out there who, if I stop to play or incorporate play, I'm not going to be as productive or I'm not going to do well. Well, Dr. Lockhart says, if you want to do well, you have to play. You have to play. I want to pause there to see if there's any question or comment or anything comes up for anybody about this idea that play might be more necessary than we think.
I had a couple of things come up.
Mhm.
So I'm a marriage and family therapist, and I attended a conference probably 5 years ago or something. And one of the keynote speakers was, I was doing a little Google search because I couldn't remember the name. David Grenier, I think. I'm probably saying it wrong. He actually teaches stand-up comedy to people with more severe mental health diagnoses like schizophrenia or severe bipolar and things like that, and teaching them sort of to embrace their diagnoses through humor and comedy. And it was not well received by a bunch of professionals because they were like, you can't make fun of people for that. Like, my friend and I were cracking up because we were like, this is gold. These people are owning their experiences. This is amazing. They're so funny. One of my favorite ones, this person shows up she does her comedy in a wedding dress. And she's like, do you ever feel like you're supposed to be somewhere? And like, that's the start of the stand-up. I was like, this is comedic gold. What is wrong with people? But you have like this outdated notion that like humor is deflection and that's it. And there's no enjoyment in it. You can't like take ownership of your experiences and your stories through humor. So that's what came up for me when you said that you had a client that had sort of kind of gone that route. That's really helpful for some of us that love humor. And then the second thing was when I was actually completing my master's degree in North Dakota, there was a parade, bunch of people walking. It's a parade, but they had a ministry of silly walks. And these people are doing some of the silliest things ever, walking in a parade, just like taking ownership of what it means to like walk, move, transport yourself from one place to another. And I was like, mind blown that you should like walking to like a level I didn't know you could take it to.
Right. And they still got to where they were going, right?
Still made it to the end of the parade regardless.
Took
a little time, but it was great.
Sounds like it was worth it. Dawn, I appreciate you raising this idea of accessibility to fun, right? Who says that if you are dealing with a severe mental illness that you still can't have fun, that you can't talk about your experiences in a way that, I don't know, you have power over it and you're able to share it with that common language of laughter? If humor is us, whoever, making sense of our experiences and having us look at it in a different way, who is anybody to say no one can have that? And maybe as we're working with people at various stages of ability, we might, by way of social justice, help them incorporate fun into their own lives and their experiences as they see it. I have a good friend, Steph. Steph was born with an illness that now I can't even describe it. But Steph has a disability. And one of the things she would do with my kids was have them play with her chair and raise her up and down in the chair. And initially I was like, is this supposed to be fun? And she's like, yeah, it's no big deal. And so even through her eyes, I can see that everybody needs fun. And I then had to stop my children from just raising her chair up and down because they felt like, it's like, give her some warning. But yes, fun and play can be incorporated regardless of the experience. As long as we're not making fun of somebody, we're sharing fun with somebody. So play is
I almost think that if those people are able to laugh in their experiences, that's kind of like they're taking back their power. They're going, I'm gonna laugh about this, and I'm not really upset about it. And it's kind of like me, I'm a domestic violence survivor. So like I share my story because I didn't go back. But where it's like the same situation where they're like sitting there and they can make light of the situation and not be bothered by it, I think that's almost empowering them in a way. So I think that gives them back their voice, sort of.
Yeah. And we tend to think about other people in this work. I'm encouraging us to think about ourselves. If people from various populations, and we're encouraging them to find the fun and humor and the lightness of life, what stops us from doing it as we work with people who've been traumatized and experience our own vicarious trauma? Have you ever worked with the person who is way too serious, even though we're doing serious work? I would say that they're pretty close or closer to burnout without this inability to play. Other comments, and then we can keep going.
Hi, I just want to thank you so much for bringing this work to us. I work at Resilience. I'm a
Do
dance
you?
I do. So hey,
Hi,
um,
family.
I'm a dance movement therapist. So this is the foundation of my work, is finding play in our bodies and accessing our creativity to create change.
Mhm.
However, when you ask this question of like, how does it attend to us as maybe helpers in the field, I'm constantly finding myself bumping up against the expectations of being a clinician and having to like work really hard to figure out a way to write in my notes like what was productive in the session, even though we are clearly doing a lot for
Mhm.
helping a person change. So yeah, I guess I wonder if you have any thoughts on like that kind of dynamic that we have to hold both. Yeah.
It sounds like you're asking how to say what we did in what we did and make it sound like there was a product, there was an outcome. Is that right? Well, if play, based on Dr. Lockhart, is an embodied experience, we used our bodies to process the trauma. We engaged in, I don't know, the lightness of life to begin to lift the weight of trauma. I mean, I have to say, full disclosure, my first career was a journalist, so I play with words a lot, and counseling is my second career. But get a thesaurus. And perhaps you, Lauren, could craft new language for movement therapies that then we all buy and you make a lot of money. If whatever's not there that we need, we can create it, is what I'm trying to say. So I think I might know your supervisor. Find all the verbs. Because what are we doing? We're incorporating play. Play is a valid therapy. Physical play, word play, mental play. And I'm giving away some of the things I'll talk about. But just name the thing. And then if you really want to be fancy and smart, cite it. You'll see in the Dropbox thing that's for the entire conference, I've posted a series of articles on play. And anything that has been published, you can then cite and say, this is evidence-based, because there's been evidence based on this study. So always rely on the literature. Always rely on the literature. Does that help?
Yeah, and I think really what you're reminding me of is that I I can be a resistance in the ways that I can, and just protect the sanctuary space of the sessions.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We're always trying to protect the space for our clients, right? And in doing so, we become advocates for ourselves. Now, Lauren, don't let me get you in trouble at Resilience. But for everybody in our work, and I'll talk about why it's about liberation, our advocacy is not just what we say, it's in what we do. And it might be in how we write notes and how we frame what our time with our clients is. And it's also how we take care of ourselves by incorporating play. Any other comments before we move on? I keep switching back and forth to screens because I want to make sure I see everybody. So I see you. All right. And thank you for that link to the Padlet. That's what that was called. So let's keep going. Speaking of the literature, Dr. Lockhart is one, but then there's more. Oh, and I'll say this, that conversation where she says all of this is a part of a discussion with the Wabash Center's Dialogue on Teaching. And there's a link to that particular podcast episode in Padlet as well. But if we're working with trauma and play is a way to embody this lightness, we got to consider trauma is a bit of a disconnection of self. So if we're able to gather ourselves in play, why wouldn't we incorporate play into trauma work? Just as a reminder, trauma is here we go, my little animation. Trauma is a state of high arousal in which normal coping mechanisms are overwhelmed in response to real or perceived threat. And it activates one of 4 responses: fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. I was doing some work around this here recently related to Lent. I won't bore you with the details, but also fatigue. We forget about fatigue as a trauma response, but we're aware that we become disorganized or disconnected from ourselves. If play brings us together, maybe we too, in battling our own vicarious trauma, need to incorporate ways to play. Thomas Hendricks wrote the book Play, A Basic Pathway to the Self, and he says play is a distinctive pathway for construction of the self. Again, if we're disconnected from trauma, we can reconstruct ourselves with play. It's also a commitment to the act of transformation and to the forms of self-awareness that arise during this process. He actually said that. As a play person or somebody who incorporates play, it's not just nothing. We're not just wasting time. We're rebuilding ourselves. We're transforming ourselves. And as a result of that, we're becoming more self-aware. What does that sound like? It sounds like mindfulness. It's paying attention to the present moment with intention while letting go of judgment as if your life depends on it. If we're more self-aware from playing, perhaps play guides us into knowing what our bodies are doing, guides us into knowing what we're feeling. And maybe we can't articulate it, but we know that there's something. There's this tension in my neck. There's these butterflies in my stomach. Maybe play is our way to our survival, because mindfulness, we actually need it to survive and do this work long term. And not just to do the work long term, but to be with people long term, with our families, with our loved ones, with new people, or I don't know, if you work at the DMV, to be able to be nice to people when they need a service. But play has value beyond just fun. Let's keep going. So there's some ideologies of play. I like my guy here in the yellow jacket because I would argue that him getting dressed this morning and deciding this is the jacket I'm putting on is a form of play. So it's not about setting aside time to play. It's, again, how can I feel playful in this moment, or feel playful all day when somebody walks down the street and goes, nice jacket, because I would totally compliment him. But there are some ideologies that go into play. The first one is this rhetoric of progress. Play contributes to the intellectual, emotional, and moral growth of the young and the rest of us, however you classify yourself. In play, we explore pathways into the future. I have 2 8-year-olds, and one of them saw a picture of themselves when they were like 3, but they had on a little doctor's gear for kids. And she said, I think I want one of those again. Like, can I get a doctor set? Why? Because in playing, maybe she's considering being a doctor, but play led her to that. And then there's this rhetoric of fate. So we play as a mode of controlling what's happening. Think of gambling, right? It's like, hey, big money. I'm trying to control something that if it lands in my favor, then I feel like I am a master of my universe. But when we play, it's a way to manage the uncertainties in life. Like, oh, you know what? I'm not alone in the world. Maybe I'm connected to some big O other who's got my back. Then there's this rhetoric of power. Think of play as a battle or a contest. I wrote Candy Crush, anyone? I've been on, like, I don't know, some Candy Smash or something. But this playing against a series of oppositions. If I'm winning in my game or when I'm playing, I might embody this winner walking into a room when people want to crush me, right? So play is a way to take on this feeling of power. And then this rhetoric of identity. I'm gathering with people. We're all the same, playing Jenga in the backyard. We're playing to demonstrate that we're together. And then the rhetoric of the imaginary. It's a method of seeing the world hypothetically. Think cosplay. I wish I'd have pulled this picture up, but for Halloween, even though it was a COVID Halloween and I ended up just eating a whole bunch of chocolate by myself, I dressed up as Maleficent because I wanted to embody or see what it would be like to be this hero and a villain, because, you know, that's Maleficent. both. But I like went full on horns and makeup and everything and took pictures and then ate candy. But it was about hypothetically, who would I be if I could sprout wings and just be this glamorous figure? So when we play, we're playing with the imaginary, trying on. And then this rhetoric of the self. We play to manage feelings. Like, how do I handle disappointment? Oh, how do I handle competition? Where is competition like allowed for my Black female self? Oh, I can be competitive in a game and nobody's going to fault me for it. So these ideologies come into play while we're playing, and none of this sounds like child's play now, does it? All right, oops. Comments, thoughts, ideas? If I'm in a room, I'm usually a lot more interactive and I'm moving around, so I don't want to take that away from our time together.
I think another area of play is just like I have this example of this kid I worked with. She was 9, and I kicked her out of session because she was being disrespectful and disruptive and just rude. But the slate gets wiped clean, and you come in the next week, and she came in. She goes, I'm really mad at you. I said, you know what? I'm really mad at you too. Let's talk about it. You go first. And she was like, I don't know what to do with that information. So sometimes play is a way to sort of knock people off their guard, I guess, because she came in with an agenda, and then she was like, I guess it's not really that bad. I was like, no, you started this, let's do it.
Right.
You gotta like mess with it.
Well, I make up that even for your client, play was a way to test some limits. Like, I'm being disrespectful, but this is fun for me. Let me see where this gets me. Would you say that was true for your client?
Oh yeah. And I absolutely 110% encourage that play, but like you get your 3 strikes, you get your redirections, you know what the consequences are before you make your next decision. And I was like, if I'm going to give you that one more chance. And we ended up ending the session early, which she was fine with, and I was like, also don't think this is how you get out of sessions. This is not how it's going to go. But I think that, I work with kids even now in a DV aspect. And sometimes they just need that like weird adult interaction, and it just like speaks to their soul or something, and they just love it. And I think that it's important that we encourage that kind of behavior and that we engage in that behavior with them. I mean, I wear, like you said, the t-shirts, like I wear my my Incredible Hulk, I'm a kind of a big deal t-shirt. I wear my Snoopy shirts that say nope. Like
I gotta find that shirt.
It's Goodwill, wherever you've thrift shop, that's where I get my stuff, because cheap and
anti-capitalist. I love it.
Exactly. But like, and they love it. I actually have an Uno card on the other side of my ID badge, and I get asked all the time, what's that for? And I'm like, just in case you say something really not very nice to me, I can turn it back on you. And they get a kick out of it. And then randomly they'll walk up to me and be like, your sweatshirt's ugly. And I'm like, oh, you did the thing. Oh, like Uno reverse to you. And they love it. Or they get mad at me when they're like, you didn't even reverse card me. Oh, I was not in that mind frame. And so sometimes it helps me remember what my role is and how like the professionalism, whatever that means in whatever agency, gets in the way of that too. So I like that reciprocal relationship.
I appreciate how you set people up to play with you. Like, play with me. I should get that on a t-shirt for sure. In talking about your client, Dawn, I left one out because I think this is what your client was doing, this rhetoric of frivolity, where we can safely deconstruct order. And often when our clients, especially our younger and adolescent clients, are trying to move against us, and it's playful for them, but maybe disrespectful for us, perhaps they are safely deconstructing this order that has been set up that they had no part in. How many times do you want to deconstruct something, but it feels like you can't? You can do it in play. You can do it in play. Let's keep going. Benefits of play. So it's a chance to develop socially useful ideas, values, skills, and relationships. I talked about it being emotional, morally, and intellectual growth. I see a chat coming in. I can't see it because I've got the screen up, but please yell out if you need to. Play can be rejuvenation or recreation. It's new strategies to deal with the world. We're energized. And we talked about this. We increase awareness of it and our bodies and minds and what they can and can't do. It's also a way to develop new capabilities. It's freedom from external control. Like if I'm playing, whatever's happening out there doesn't matter. But it's also a way to create control within our environment. So then, play is liberative, it's freeing. And in the name of play, for the sake of liberation, I want to share this little video with you in this little song. Hang on, let me make sure I shared my sound. Oh, somebody said thanks. You're welcome. This is a throwback from the 70s if you're in my age group. Why is it not moving? That's sad. It's slow, sorry. Let me see if I can pull this up. It like totally disappeared. Give me just a second.
If you send me the link to the video, I might be able to play it for you.
I have it right here. All right. Now I'll share. Here we go. After the ad, of course.
Meet Stitch Fix. Get styled in 4 easy steps. First, take your
And let me say, Jack was nowhere in this video in celebrating freedom through play. So play is not setting aside time to play. It's incorporating it into what we already do. All right, let's go back to our PowerPoint here. And now it shows up. Isn't that just like technology? All right. So then play is embodied. It gets us moving. It puts us back into our body. It's empowering. It gives us freedom in perhaps a world or an agency or a context where we don't have as much. And then it's essential. The thing is, the possibilities of play are endless. So let's talk about how you might incorporate more play into your life. I want to give you some examples and then put you into groups where you can kind of brainstorm on what play looks like. So a way to play, I talked about it, is in how you dress, what you decide to wear, or what you might incorporate into planning your day. For example, I don't know if you can see my calendar here. I started putting stickers in my calendar just because it's fun, just because I like it. My office is decorated in North Carolina gear, just because I like it. Like even down to, the cup I drink from. There's a sign over here with my name in Carolina gear, just because it's fun. So think about things that you do as a part of your day-to-day life, just because it's fun. If you're driving into the office, are you turning up your music to get there? Or if you're commuting, are you listening to nonsensical things just because it's fun? For no productive end whatsoever, think about how play can be a part of your life. And I'm going to ask Luce, or do I have the capability? Yeah, I'll ask Luce to break us up into groups of 3 or 4, and we'll talk for about 10 or 15 minutes and brainstorm on how you can incorporate more play into what you do.
All right. Did you all get are we in a room?
We are
I
not.
wonder. Huh.
I wonder if people have stepped away and didn't see the invite.
Yeah, let me see.
Because you invited me, I just didn't go into it.
Yeah. Okay. I tried forcing everyone into one, so I don't know.
Is that possible to force people in?
Yeah.
I did not know that.
There we go. Yay. It's working.
Cool. I did not know that.
I also think every day is new updates to this Zoom life.
Yes, I think you're right. So I have my timer going here.
I'll pause the recording.
So these are the people that don't watch the countdown. I'm the person that I have to watch it until it gets down to 0. It's like I cannot look away.
I think that's funny that you even mentioned that, because I'm like, excuse me, it's counting down. We have to leave now. Like, I didn't even cross my mind that other people would wait.
It was one of those things that I didn't know I was doing until, like, repetitively, I would just have to watch it. It's like, yeah, I have to watch that countdown. Not a minute before. You're gonna kick me out of this room. All right. Are we all back now? All right, as we're trickling back in. So without going through your entire day, I will ask you, what is your play pledge? And I totally drew that stick figure as a way of playing. But I want to ask you all, and whoever would like to share, I'll invite you to, I will add play to my life by, and then fill in the blank. How will you add play to your life?
I will add play to my life by not being so stuck on being serious every minute of the day, because like we said in the groups, I can't help others if I don't help myself. And I will not be afraid to let loose and be have fun in the moment, because I'm very serious most of the time.
Got it. Sounds great, Diana. And yeah, we just can't help others for long if we can't help ourselves, for sure. Others, either based on your discussion or based on what you want to share with the room, how will you add play to your life?
So I will add play to my life, and this is something that Katie and I and our other group members talked about. It's like singing, dancing, like getting more active, like in the middle of the day, even if it's like for small pockets.
Mm-hmm. Like a micro dance party or a micro concert.
Yeah.
Love it, Erin. I do that on a regular. And I actually can't dance that well, but.
Okay, so I'm going to add to that. I invite you all to do this. When you see a time that is a triple digit, 1 minute party. For the minute, you cannot stop dancing, make up a song to yourself for 1 whole minute. And as soon as it changes, you got to act like it never happened. Move on.
What do you mean triple digit?
It's like 111, 333, 444 in terms of time. And so like I have interns, like I was on the phone with one of my former interns, and it came to a 1 minute party. She was like, 1 minute party. And we just started dancing. 1 whole minute. It's wonderful. It's a joy burst. It's a minute. You can take a minute.
You can take a minute.
You can. And you make up a song to it. And then just like it started, it ends just as abruptly. You go about your business.
Like it never happened, except your body and brain know that it did, and you get some joy. I love that, Ashaki. Am I saying it right?
Yes.
Oh, yes. 1 minute party. We're all going to do that. How else can we add play to our lives? Office flash mob. Yes.
So I spend like 30 hours of my week with teenagers, and they love to tease. They're the way that they like to play is through teasing right now on Zoom, and they love to tease us. They love to call me a baby boomer when I'm acting old. I'm 24. They love they love to like fake fire me. So something that I'm celebrating is the safe boundary of teasing. Because it can be very playful and very fun to push those boundaries in a way that you feel like safe and protected.
Yeah.
So that's something that I'm celebrating with them, like teasing them back in a way that's playful rather than malicious, obviously, but playing with that and celebrating the boundaries of like, we are all good, we are all okay.
Yeah, I love that because it's like a game we're all in on. That's what I told my kids Santa was. It's like it's a game, we're all in on it so they don't spoil it for other people. They're 8. The twins are 8, and we just had this conversation that we've agreed Santa is not real. It's just your parents. Do you know we've got a debate on the Easter Bunny? Like one of them thinks it's your parents, the other is not sure. I'm like, really? I have a couple of weeks to get this ironed out. But yes, a game that we're all in on. Thank you, Katie. How else will you incorporate play? You can do what I tend to do. I often let my metacognition come out of my mouth. So those internal thoughts that are just fun for me, because I bring my own fun, I just bring it into the room and I'll laugh if I'm laughing by myself. Lauren, if you ask people at Resilience, you might get those stories where DeVona's just in the back of the room laughing. So others, how will you incorporate play into this very hard and serious work that we're doing?
I think it's like maybe in the morning on my way to like, sometimes I go to the office still. So I think like if I am going to the office, I usually what I would do is I would get in like a shot of espresso because I can't live without coffee. And I will like just dance for like 7 blocks in the morning, like at 8 a.m. and people would just watch me.
Yeah.
And I think I want to do that again. I think I want to start doing that again. And I also might want to buy skates so that I could skate to work, and just be like, like skate to the office and like feel like I'm doing something else for myself. And when I was like younger, I loved skating and I was always skating with like all of my neighbors and my siblings, and we had so much fun. And I think I want to go back to that. I want to go back to being like that person that skated to the gas station and everywhere she went, So
What's
I
wrong
wanna
with
do
that? Why can't we go back to that? Why can't we make play a social norm? Be like Tootie from the Facts of Life. See, that's that metacognition coming right out. Whatever I'm thinking, if it's appropriate, I will say it out loud. I love that. Skating and inline skates or the 2x2.
I'm thinking of buying roller skates just because I kind of know how to use them, but I've always used like roller blades. So I kind of want to get into that, and it's different. I already ice skate, so I don't know.
Fun fact about me, I've never been ice skating. Maybe next winter. All right. How else can we incorporate play? I love the roller skate idea because you're already going to work anyway. Might as well go on wheels.
I shared in our breakout group that I bought my first new car a year and a half ago. It is a Dodge Challenger, and it is purple. And that is a head turner, and I love every single second of it because I'm like, I know, right? It's so good. So anytime I'm in that car, even though I work from home mostly now, is just a friggin' delight. And I also have a purple motorcycle that is the same color with rainbow sparkly glitter in it. So turning heads, that's just fun for me. I enjoy it. So I like everything is purple. So yeah, anybody that's a purple lover, like, we need to connect. So that's just kind of like a silly thing, and I don't have to like do anything, but yeah, watching kids' heads turns, even like old guys.
Yeah,
they're fun because they're like, what? I'm like, I know, right? This is so good.
When we play, Dawn, you're making the point that us playing, it brings about this sense of community and we're all in it together. So there are multiple reasons for us to incorporate play, and it doesn't have to be a set aside time. It's just having a playful way about us, because that's how we reconstruct the world in a way that makes it habitable for everybody. Anybody else want to share?
I just wanted to talk about something that we do. So I work for a high school, and we're talking about play and all these different things. So I know we do a PBIS system, which is a positive behavioral system that we do at our school.
Yeah.
And one of our most successful field trips that we took our kids on was whirly ball, and it's because it incorporated the idea of play. So it was healthy competition. And I actually went on that field trip. It was a lot of fun. So I'm definitely gonna be proposing. I know it's hard right now because we're in COVID, but when we go back, I definitely want to push because I think this is great.
Right. Well, let's summarize a little bit. We got our play pledges, and I encourage you to keep writing them. But to summarize, let's rethink the meaning of play. Let's not differentiate work from play. And then recognize that play is not the opposite of work, right? Play, the opposite of play, perhaps is not living fully. And then remember that play is akin to finding joy or creating joy for ourselves just because it's fun. Come on, Purple Charger. And then by its very nature, play is another way to practice mindfulness. It gets us into the present moment. It helps us embody our own experiences. And remember this, work will be less productive without the incorporation of play. And then play includes a series of small accomplishments that improve our sense of self. So before you tell yourself I'm wasting time or not doing anything, I'm improving my sense of self. That's what I'm doing. And then play when you work and even when you don't. Don't be like Jack. All right, I want to open it up to any questions or comments or critiques. I can take it. I might cry, but I'll be okay. I will be okay. Yes.
So we were talking about play in terms of evaluation, and I work with teens especially, and not just teens, young people. People know how to answer surveys. Give me a survey, I know what to bubble in, I know what to say, I know what's right, I know what's wrong. We want the real information, the real answers, and the depth of it. Yeah. So I found it to be effective to use play in evaluation because it's not, you're not taking a paper survey per se, but you walk to the red dot or the green dot or that part of the room or what have you. Do you have any other tools like that? Does anybody else have ideas that could also add to that? Because I found it to be very effective, and I am not a fan of paper pen surveys.
Objects.
Yeah.
Objects and toys. I miss my office downtown, but those conferences that we go to, all of the little squeezy things, I'm trying to see if I have one here. I collect all of those things, and then give those values. If this is great, go pick up the yellow duck. Or if this is not great, and always make it tactile. Something that people can pick up, throw, squeeze, something like that, because they'll buy into the process of evaluating a little bit better, and they'll just gravitate toward, answering your questions honestly. Does that help?
Yes, thank you. Appreciate that.
I also do like M&Ms and Skittles, and I try not to use food.
That's exactly what I was gonna say. Like, I try not to, and then they'd be like, "Where's my candy?" Oh, no, we got something else going on.
I'm that parent with the school with my kids. I'm that parent that food need not be a motivator, and it can be. I just don't want them to do it. The point of play, we become much more creative. The more we play, it breeds its own creativity. So if you all are sitting at home or in your offices, try thinking by tossing a ball up in the air and see what comes to you. See what comes to you. So spur your own creativity to build new ideas for how you can do certain things. Any other comments? Yeah.
I was going to say that I think too, allowing our clients, whatever they look like whatever our role is with clients, to see a little bit of ourselves, I think is really important in the play process. So a long time ago, I had one of my fidgets in my office when I had an office was a banana, and I called it my Chicago street banana because I literally found it on the street in Chicago. And nobody else claimed it. I was like, is this anybody's toy? Nobody took it. So I was like, this is super cool. I'm going to take it. So everybody gets to hear the story, and there's a lot of judgment because I took something off the street in Chicago. I was like, dude, I washed it. Calm down. But part of that weirdness, and they're like, oh, Dawn, she's just very strange. Yes, I am, and I'm okay with that, and you should be okay with that too. Like, let's be strange together. So I think part of that process is like, you know, it's not just a fidget. Let me tell you the story about the fidget because I'm oddly proud of it. So it's like those weird kind of connection stories too. I think incorporate play, and they make play more possible in those situations.
Absolutely. Stories can be play. How we tell a story can be play. I was reading on social media, apparently last year when y'all were hoarding the toilet paper, I reminded people of a story of toilet paper guy, a guy in my history that wanted to leave my apartment with a roll of toilet paper, so he became toilet paper guy. But in telling the story, it became its own thing in a form of play. So incorporating yourself, telling stories, absolutely all of that, Dawn. Any other questions or comments? And I love the banana story. I didn't sing my song, but well, I'm gonna sing it now. I'm a banana, banana power. It's some song my daughter came up with, but we've connected because of your banana story. But do y'all see where I'm going? It's almost like planned spontaneity. Incorporate fun into what you do, incorporate it into your life. Buy funny socks or wear mismatched socks. Just incorporate it. We do hard work and we need something to counter it. This becomes our answer to how we balance our vicarious trauma and move through it. Move through it. If there are no other
I had
questions or
one
comments.
last one.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry to everybody, I've been monopolizing. I just take the opportunities. One of the things that we incorporated in our office, so it's still at my office, is we heard the idea somebody had a screaming llama. So if you ever like frustrated, you just go and you squeeze it and it screams really loud. So I found at Goodwill, because that's where I live, it was a little box that said roar on it, and you open it and it's a little tiny T-Rex that's like this big and it screams. It's like a big roar that comes out of it. And I'm like, yes, finally we have one for our office. So you having a bad day or something's weird or something's frustrating, you open the box, it's just roars like a giant little tiny T-Rex. It's probably like this big. And then you move on with your day. You kind of like put your energy into it. It's like that playful release of energy, and you just move on with life.
Absolutely. Screaming llamas, you can't go wrong with them. There's also the screaming goat too. Yeah, anything that screams, and as long as it's not you and you're getting out some energy and playing, go for it by all means. Well, I thank you all for your time and attention. Those references are in the I never can remember what that thing is called, but it's in the resource place where you can find all of your resources. And I appreciate your time and energy and your participation. Here's how you can reach me. That is a work cell. Yes, you can text me. And then you can also email me at devona@millenniumhope.com. Oh, wow. I'm happy to see some like familiar faces from previous trainings.
Wait, will you put your information in the chat? I missed the last slide.
I can do that.
Thank you so much.
That's all I got, folks. And if anybody has any questions, I'll be around. Thank you very much for coming.